and Anthony Fresita. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Four point oh one, public comment on agenda items. Please stand up if you want to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to listen to public comment. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. The board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a debate or dialogue. Please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. Any questions from the public should be submitted to the usual public comment form, which may be obtained online or at the desk with the district clerk. We'll have the proper staff member get back to you as appropriate. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to address any comments or questions about specific students or school personnel. We'd ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. A total of 30 minutes at the beginning of each board meeting is set aside to allow for public comment on agenda items only. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting is limited only to the items on the agenda. Persons who wish to participate in the public comment period or the meeting are asked to provide their name and a specific item on the agenda item they wish to speak on. A sign-up sheet is located at the desk with the district clerk. Individual comments on agenda items limited to 3 minutes and are welcomed. If you wish to address items relating to a school district that are not on tonight's agenda, another comment period is provided at the end of the meeting for that purpose. A second sign-up sheet is available for non-agenda items. In the interest of civility, respect for different points of view, clapping, booing, or any disturbance or destruction during either public comment period is not permitted. Is there anyone? Okay. Seeing none. 4.2, communication not received by the Board of Education. Eddie?
This will kind of be a collective one for me, Trustee Johnson, Trustee Morgan, Trustee Miggins, and I'm sure the superintendent will mention on his comments. And obviously you can all chime in. We're at RCK. I guess it's kind of apropos. That's just, great job by our RCK girls basketball team. Once again, came up a little short, but we still won sectional. Congratulations to Coach Mealy and his entire staff. Obviously, our 6 graduating seniors should have nothing to be ashamed of. Great varsity career, winning 2 sectionals and 1 state championship over the course of the last 3 years. So congratulations to them. Fantastic job. Wish them all the best of luck. Everything to be proud of. Really does a great job all around with that program. And Principal Syke, go Storm, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody else can chime in on that. Thank you. Congratulations again.
All Storm, always.
Anyone else? Cheryl?
Yes, I would actually like to congratulate all 4 basketball teams, the boys teams and the girls teams from both high schools, for qualifying for postseason play this year. They all were very strong teams that played very well and made it to varying degrees of length of season. I'd also like to congratulate the athletes who have represented us at the other state championships that were going on the past few weekends, especially the young ladies who were representing the district in the gymnastics competition. And congratulations to Connor Hitt for placing 2nd at the Indoor State Track and Field Championship. I'd also like to say I had the opportunity to attend the Gayhead Elementary play, Shrek, and was marvelously entertained. It was a wonderful, wonderful production. Mrs. Banda and her team put on a wonderful, wonderful program with those students. I'd also like to say that with this being the month where we most encourage reading, I had the opportunity to serve as a mystery reader last week over at Fishkill Plains. I read to a first grade class and a second grade class. I had a rapt audience for the first grade class. As it turns out, I was the warm-up act for their assembly with a Tony Award-winning actress. My second grade class was also a wonderful group, but I had to follow that very talented young lady who had just read to them.
Marie?
On top of some of the wonderful performances that for both sports, and yes, both John Jay and our Boris C. Ketchum, congratulations on all your sports achievements the last month or so. I would also like to say that we were able to go to Van Wyck's Annie, which was also very, very good and riveting, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming performances here, John Jay, and next weekend at Wapp Junior High School for, I believe that's High School Musical next weekend. We have Grease coming up here and Hairspray also. We had John Jay hosted the science fair, and I would like to thank them for the amazing work they did over there. There was some really, really intelligent young folks over there that made me try and wonder what I was doing, trying to grow plants and batteries in my science projects, and they were talking about disinfectant wipes, and we will not discuss what came up in those Petri dishes. So I just want to thank the two different schools and all the others for all the great work they've done this month.
Anyone else? John?
Thank you for mentioning Annie, Trustee Johnson. Well done by the students and the support staff for the play of Annie over at Van Wyck. I just also wanted to make mention of the fact that this coming weekend, we have a team going to state competition up in the Syracuse area at Lemoyne University. So we wish the John Jay Science Olympiad team well. Over the weekend, I was able to get them some space so that they could fly their airplane in preparation for having it make laps around the Lemoyne Gymnasium. We weren't able to find that much space for them, but the two young men that head that team up, we wish them and the entire team well. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll be the last one, I guess, as usual. Congratulations to the John Jay men team for taking first place in the Math League Central held at Vassar College. 4 teams were tied for first place, but thanks to Haley Kim, who broke the tie after numerous questions were answered incorrectly by all 4 teams. I have a question with the actually winning question, and I question what the answer was. I thought the answer was 20 radical 3. I was told it was 30 radical 3. So I'm going to have Mr. Turbin try to explain to me why the answer was actually 30 radical 3. I posed this question to John Lewis, a former Met teacher, and he agreed that the answer should be 20 radical 3. But in any event, the winning answer was 30
That's
radical
old
3.
math. They use the new math now.
In any event, I will ask Mr. Thurman to, my former student, to try to teach me why the answer is 30 radical 3. As has been said, congratulations to the University Cape girls basketball team for being the sectional champs. I want to thank Coach Mealy and his staff for all their hard work. Congratulations to all the winter 2023-2024 Robinson School athletic teams and individuals on receiving New York State Scholar Athlete Recognition. Congratulations, as has already been said, to Amy Kowalczyk and Connor Hitt and John Jay student Angie Odenihi for making New York State Track and Field Championship. Amy finished 19th in the 3,000-meter run. Connor took second place in the 600-meter run, and Angie finished 13th in the weight throw. Continued success in spring track. On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank the Wappinger Rotary for recognizing the following students on one of the February meetings: Nicholas Fesco from Wappinger Junior High, Emmett Cortez from Emmons, Sophia Freer from Myers, and Winter Donaldson from Chief. I want to thank their respective teachers for nominating them. Congratulations to the 25 John Jay students who were inducted into the French Honor Society. Next time, I'm going to ask Trustee Miggets to please help me with the enunciation. Apparently, it didn't go too well, but anyway, I tried. I want to thank Mrs. Fusco, a John Jay Italian teacher for the Board of Education, to the John Jay Honor Society Celebration of Culture and Family. The food was very good. I want to congratulate all the students at K-Head that participated in the play strike, and all the students at NY who participated in the play Annie. The students were exceptional. I want to thank all the advisors for their hard work in preparing the students for their performance. Congratulations to all participants in the state competition held at John Jay High School. All the elementary schools as well as high schools were well represented. I congratulate all the winners and hope that all the students continue making hypotheses, but that's the way of increasing your knowledge. Congratulations to Amy Dwyer and Abigail Verrecchio, who are Wappingers Central School District Gymnastics State qualifiers. And congratulations to John J. Michael Mauro for being a wrestling state qualifier, and Jane Conto, John J. Bowler State qualifier. So congratulations to all the students. And with that, the next item on the agenda is 4. Let's see what it is. Mr. Bossy's, 5. Bossy's budget presentation. Mr. Metzger.
Good evening, Superintendent Bach and members of the Wappingers Board of Education. Matt Metzger, School Business Official for Duchess Bosse's. Seems like I was just here last month and the year's going by and I'm back. I see a very consistent Board of Education, a lot of familiar faces here. It's going to be a similar message and similar presentation. So hopefully we can move through it pretty quickly for you. It's really just a list of our cabinet members and our Board of Trustees at the Bosse's currently. I would recognize Mike McFarland up there. I like to present this every year. This is really a pie chart of all the services that Bosse's has and does. Tonight, if you were to look at this as a clock, we're going to talk mainly about between 12 and 1 o'clock, which is really the administrative budget, the retiree health, and the capital and rental. But when we think of Bosse's, we think of some of those larger slices normally, special ed, pretty large section on the right, the Career and Technical Institute, educational resources, learning technology. And we do in the upper left there's cross contracts. Those are actually contracts that Wappingers and other school districts may use with other Bosse's besides ours. So it's like to just kind of review the funding and the categories. We have the administrative, including the Bosse's retiree health insurance. I'll speak about that a little bit. Capital and rentals. And then, as I mentioned, the program and services is really what we most think of Bosse's, the special ed classes, alt high school. Always like to remind you that we have no real unappropriated fund balance. So when we close our books down, it's whatever we took in as revenue from the districts, we subtract the expenditures, and then that goes back as a surplus to the districts in the following school year. And I also like to remind everybody that there's an incentive to do business with Bosse's because it does generate some state aid for the district. Focus tonight on the administrative, including the health insurance. This is voted on by the Board of Education of the school districts, and it's illegal, and it's the one budget that we can't amend or increase during the year, so we need to get it right. And I always like to talk about the capital and rentals at this presentation as well. How do we catch up and take your distribution from the districts? We use Arwada. It's a state aid computation. It's resident weighted average daily attendance. This is a legal requirement. It makes it non-arbitrary so that the Bosse's really can't decide how to split up the revenue. So that it doesn't look like they're putting favoritism on one district over another. You can see that once again decreasing our WADA in total. I think it's down 354 or so. Wappingers actually tracking higher, you're up 45. And as a result of that, if we were to collect the same amount of money from the previous year that we do this year, just based on your Arwada percentage. Wappingers is going to have to contribute a little bit more. Comes out to just over 28%. Now we'll present the actual administrative budget. We're looking for just a little over 2% increase on the non-retiree administrative portion of the budget. We're really doing our best to hold that in line. I think if we went back the last 4 years, we've really been kind of holding that budget as close to an increase as possible. You'll notice there's a transfers and intercharge number there. And what we're really trying to do is we understand that our 13 component districts are really the ones that support the administrative budget, but we also do services for districts that are outside of our county. So when that happens, we're charging them with an administrative fee, and then we're taking that administrative fee, we're transferring that out of that service and getting into this budget to try and find some relief for our districts. And at the bottom there, the retiree health insurance is just up about 1.5%. Still have some favorable news there because of our health insurance consortium has kind of been realigning the Medicare rates. And so that's beneficial because we have a lot of retirees that are on the Medicare health insurance plan. So that's some good news. So looking for a total of these two combined of 1.72%. The portion that you're actually voting on is the non-retiree piece, and that's the increase of $38,000. So similarly to a school district, if your budget vote was to fail, you would be forced to go on a contingency. So in this case, if our BOCES budget fails, we're talking about $38,000 that we would have to reduce our budget by. When we look at the funding, and this has been the struggle for the last few years as well. I just presented to you a budget-to-budget increase of 1.72%, but what we've been trying to correct is kind of a budget gap that's been created by the use of a retiree accrual. So we see that we've kind of lost $400,000 of revenue that we're using to offset the district contributions. The good news is this is the last year of it. We're down to zero. We've been kind of methodically reducing this by $400,000 a year. But unfortunately, it's a pretty substantial increase for Wappingers this year. It's 7.42% is the actual increase, or an increase of just about $115,000, I believe it is. Just like to mention the capital, we've been collecting $1 million. We're going to continue that this year. That really keeps our infrastructure going, does some projects on our existing buildings. And then we still do have a little bit of rent, $65,000. It's really to pay for the in-district classrooms. Sometimes districts will host BOCES classes, and I think we have 3 school districts that we still have those agreements with. When we look at this, I think it's just a $1,000 increase, I think, this year for Wappingers as far as the capital and the rental. And we're pretty flat. When we look at the book of business with Wappingers, we had about $17 million of services that were provided to Wappingers last year. They do include cross contracts. It returned a surplus of $1.8 million and it generated BOCES aid of $3.3 million for a total return of just about $5 million, about 30% of your money back on your expenditures. I'd just like to highlight the participation that Wappingers has currently. These are as of January 1st. They have 40 in special and alternative education, 40 students, 27 at our Soul Point campus special ed building, 5 alternative high school, one's in a Pegasus class, which is a life skills class in the Alter High School. There's 7 in district, and we had 102 enrolled in the Career and Technical Institute, 14 in electrical trades, 13 in auto technology, 13 in cosmetology, 10 each in HVAC technician, welding and fabrication, and 42 in some other assorted programs. Some key dates: April 26th will be the district's vote on this administrative budget. There's 3 open board seats, currently they'll be voted on. And there might be an additional item. We're ahead of our March board meeting to fit you on the schedule, but we're really considering creating a career and technical equipment reserve at BOCES. It would be set up really to buy new equipment for our career and technical institutes. Some of the things I think about are kind of like lifts for the auto or maybe a new welding machine. In order for us to create that reserve, we need a majority of the school districts to approve that. So that possibly will be on the vote depending on our meeting on Wednesday. And then if we get more than 7, we may take plans in the future to fund it. It cannot exceed $2 million in total, and the limit in any one year that we can put on it is $500,000. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. I'm not sure if Jason wants to add anything at this point.
Just what you just mentioned, will that, if you put that on for a vote, does that increase district contributions, or is that utilized from existing contributions?
Contributions would stay the same. I think what we will do is we will reduce your surplus that goes back at the end of the year. So if we have a pretty favorable year and it generated a decent amount of income in the program, we would decide to, kind of hold some back for future purchases.
Okay, so it wouldn't be anything extra?
No, it would not change the enrollment or anything like that. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mister? How's Rwanda used to determine the amount of money that each district has to contribute?
It's, like I said, it's illegal. It's in law, and it's the number that they use as their really to cut the pie up. I have this conversation. We have this question every year when we're here. I understand Wappingers contributes about 28% of the administrative budget, and your participation in our BOCES is probably somewhere about 20%. So, I understand that, you probably feel there's some inequalities here. But to our point, what we're really trying to do in the administrative budget is really when we do some cross contracts to pull in some administrative fees from the non-component districts, the ones that aren't in Dutchess County, because that's where I don't think it's fair. Right? U13 districts, Wappingers being included on the hook for the administrative budget, but I think we should be able to get something from the non-components to people outside of Dutchess County.
I noticed that you're renting still classrooms. Did the building actually reduce the number of classrooms that you have to rent outside?
You want to speak this? It's really about the inclusion.
They're inclusion classrooms we utilize in other districts. So we rent space in other districts and to hold certain students with disabilities and make sure they're inclusive and meet the law. It's restricted. So those are really the only rentals going on. And I believe we're only about 2 or 3 buildings.
I think we're in 3 districts and maybe only about 5 classes.
Keep returning more than 30%. Keep going.
So one, we have a pretty special relationship with Wappingers. Thanks to your superintendent, thanks to all of you. I mean, I've had a lot of wonderful experiences with every board member here, whether it's down in Albany or Buffalo or a multitude of other places we travel around the state advocating for our children. So I do want to thank this board and thank the superintendent for all your help and partnership throughout this. We did all meet as a group about 2 weeks ago. We combined our deputy and assistant soups with our superintendent meetings, and some themes that came out of that after looking at some of their work. So if we're looking into the next couple of years, we have districts that are looking at data to drive instruction, big initiatives. We're looking at project-based learning assessments, obviously coming from the state, science of reading, and no matter what Governor Hochul says, it's more than just phonics. Good reading is vocabulary comprehension, fluency. Phonics and phonemic awareness, right? It's 5 parts. Multi-tiered systems of support seems to be a big initiative districts are working on across the county. Restorative practices, as well as increasing ELA and math scores, and of course, mental health is still lingering out there. That's really at the center of most of our discussions when we meet as superintendents, because we know if staff, students don't feel safe in an environment, the academics of the great work struggles. You have to feel safe before you can move forward with any initiatives. So that's things that we are working on. And just finally, a follow-up, as you recall, so many years ago, this county decided to write their legislators about dual enrollment, trying to get that to be a COSR and to be aidable. I'm very happy to say that a COSR was just thrown by the district BOCES superintendents last week. That will be sent to the commissioner over the next couple months and her team to review. So we are hoping by the start of next year, the hard work that you all put in, as well as your superintendents, will come to fruition. And some of the dual enrollments will be aidable. So that's a tribute to your hard work, to be very honest with you. That came right out of Dutchess County. So, as Dwight and I often speak about, our footprint is growing and growing and growing. And that's due to your hard work. So thank you so very much. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time today as well. Yes, sir.
This is more a financial question, but stay right there. President Mumia asked how our water was used. I think you very articulately explained the why. I might have missed the how, but is basically, do you take the budget, you add up all the student count, our WADA, and then it's allocated proportionately.
Correct. And
that's why Wappingers is the most, because we're the largest district by an order of 1,000 or so students.
Yeah, it's not exact enrollment. The weighted is important.
Right. Yeah, no, I know, but that's what our WADA is. It's a representation of that. And then once you accept that number, your protestation not dismissed, Trustee Spencer. Once you accept that number, then it's just a straight proportional allocation of the budget.
That's correct. I mean, it's submitted in the state aid forms by all the districts. It's compiled at the state level, and then the state level actually generates it.
We don't want to explain how you derive our WADA.
Okay, they provide us.
Just keep sending money back. That's
okay. Cool. I'll do my best.
Is the weighting mostly income related?
No, I think it's on the secondary schools. I think that the secondary school, the high school is weighted more than the elementary counts. And that's why it'll never match right up with your enrollment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good. I'm sorry, another question? Put the
mic on. Thank you for your presentation, Superintendent Shelley, as well as Mr. Metzger.
Have a great night.
And as I said, keep returning some of our money.
Superintendent Shatelik and Assistant Superintendent Metzger, I would like to thank you for all of the work that you do with Dutchess BOCES. You are an extremely valued partner to this school district, especially in the areas of career and technical education. As Superintendent Shatelik said, we're moving forward here in Dutchess County with a number of exciting opportunities for our students to help prepare today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. One of the programs that we're utilizing is the P-TECH program, and Superintendent Shatelik, I'd like to thank you for the instrumental role that you played in Dutchess County receiving that grant. And from what I understand, it was the largest grant that was awarded to any region in New York State. So I want to thank you for your continued efforts. For those of you who are unaware as to the roles and responsibilities of a district superintendent, one of his many hats is to go to Albany to lobby for the school districts and the students and the taxpayers of Dutchess County. And I can say that he does that very well. And in the time that I've been in this district, I have noticed some monumental changes in the way things are being done and the recognition that Dutchess County BOCES has throughout New York State. So I'd like to thank you and your administrative team for all of your efforts in Albany.
I'm going to throw that right back to you, especially for PTAC, because your team and Wappingers have been instrumental and really carrying a lot of that load. I also want to thank, obviously, Mr. Metzger here who put together a sound budget, but our cabinet as well as your Wappingers team have worked fluidly to create this program. So big thanks to all of you.
Thank you, and again, we're very, very pleased with our partnership. Thank you again for all you do.
5.02, the superintendent recommended budget.
Can everybody just look at your packets that I've already given us before?
Thank you, Director Schouten. I've got the clicker. So I do have some comments to make as far as superintendent's comments. In regards to the comments that were made by the members of our Board of Education. If you've been at these meetings or watched these meetings on video, you will probably be in agreement with me that about 90% of the items that are discussed are regarding opportunities for our students. That has always been a goal of this school district, to provide as many opportunities as possible for all, and I can't say enough, all of our students in a myriad of different ways. So what you heard earlier was some of the successes of the many successes. But for all of those successes, there are also successes that are going on behind the scenes that are positively impacting students and families and preparing them for life after high school.
Sorry, there's just an issue.
So at this point, this is the recommended budget, number one. It says the superintendent's recommended budget, but I can tell you that the work has been put in by the district office, senior staff, administration, and I can't thank Assistant Superintendent Dainty, who's up here handing out some information, for all of her work. And I will say that this is not a doom and gloom presentation. We've all heard of the unfortunate circumstances that are existing in some school districts throughout New York State. They're talking about crippling budget cuts that is going to cut staffing, it's going to cut programs, and it's going to cut services. We were very fortunate in that our allocation from the governor's office was very, very positive. In addition to that, through careful planning over the last 3 years, when we received monies, this district took the opportunity to move slowly, to evaluate our services, to evaluate our programs, and do an inventory of what we do as a school district, and determine where that money should go moving forward. So that all relates to the presentation that I'm going to give today. There are no cuts in this budget. There are adds in this budget, and we'll talk about how we got there through this presentation. Okay, thank you, Art. So The members that are up here of our Board of Education, President John Lumia, Vice President John S. Morgan, Trustee Marie Johnson, Trustee Keith Odoms, Trustee Peggy Callan, Trustee Eddie Sloshower, Trustee Michael McFarland, Trustee James Spencer, Trustee Cheryl McGitz. Without you, this would not be possible. And without your support and trust over the last couple of years, we would not be in the situation that we would be in to present a budget such as this during this time. And I thank each of you for that. Members of the senior team, invaluable. Assistant Superintendent for Administration Information Systems, Mr. Darren Olkema. Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Michelle Cardwell. We all know Ms. Kristen Dainty, the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Business Development. She is the financial guru. Richard Zip, the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services. Renee Harris, Executive Director, Human Resources. Julia Montoya, Executive Director of Special Education. And our Director of Facilities, Ron Broas. And of course, the District Clerk and Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Alberta Pedro. So thank you all for all of your work in preparing what I believe is a sound proposed budget. So, how did we come up with this budget? What's in there? Well, we have district core mission and district core values. We have input, and yes, I have received a lot of input from our community, and I appreciate all of it. The values and goals of this Board of Education and the values and goals of the senior staff and all of our staff in our buildings. The 24-25 budget, in my opinion, is student-centered and it's fiscally responsible. It maintains current programs, continuing to support academics, special education, E&L, enrichment, extracurriculars, and that important professional development for staff. We continue that focus on mental health and safety for our students and staff. We increase our supports. Today's students looking at tomorrow's opportunities, which in this region, many are in the areas of career and technical education. I sent out a memo a month ago because we had disruptions at 3 schools because we had issues with our infrastructure. First of all, I would like to thank our Facilities and Operations Department for addressing them. But I think many of you understand that with having some parts that are original to the life of the school leads us to situations where at times things don't work as we want. We need to make those repairs, and $2 million of our fund balance, which I will share later, that I will be asking the board that I shared, will be used to make those safety repairs. The fact that we have to close in the morning an hour and a half before school because we have an issue is unacceptable. The fact that we have to dismiss a school because of a septic issue during the school day is unacceptable. The fact that we have issues with a gas line at a school, fortunately, it wasn't anything to be concerned about, but it's unacceptable and we need to fix it. This budget does that. Also, April 1st is the budget deadline for aid finalization. And I would be very surprised based on what I've heard if that budget is approved on April 1st. But we shall see. So, the 24-25 budget, we continue to lead the way in instruction. Career and technical programs, college readiness, added support. We talked briefly about the P-TECH program, which will be years 1 and 2 here in this building at Roy C. Ketchum High School, and years 3 and 4 at Dutchess Community College in Fishkill. This will be open to 50 individuals throughout all 13 component school districts in Dutchess County. They will take coursework at Ketchum for 2 years. They will go to DCC their junior and senior years. They will graduate with an associate's degree and an employment opportunity that we expect to pay somewhere between $70,000 to $80,000 a year. We've also used Passport for Good, which is an online database to track all of the students that are involved in extracurricular activities, and it records their coursework for graduation pathways and college applications. So we've streamlined the process to make it more user-friendly. We continue the Winter Circle project at Royce C. Ketchum High School and at John Jay High School. We've added additional academic enrichment programs at the elementary level. We've increased the budget for the number of opportunities offered at the Duchess Bosey's Career and Technical Institute. We've added a school counselor for career and technical pathways. So that's our instruction. Let's talk about special education. It's been a common theme over the last couple of years. It continues to be a common theme. Why? I know nobody wants to talk about the pandemic, but the bottom line is we are seeing students who require additional services, whether it was a result of the pandemic or something else, we're not sure, but they need additional services, and it's our responsibility to provide them with that. So what we've come up with is a new initiative. It's called the ICT Plus. So you've heard of ICT, you've heard of self-contained. Now we're going to try to find something that's between ICT and self-contained, and that's ICT Plus. So that's integrated co-taught programs. It is a new class for students with emotional and behavioral challenges that interfere with their success in a classroom with a 6-to-1 ratio. We will add 3 additional special education teachers to support the program. An additional ICT special education teacher or 2 could be added pending completion of the annual review process. So this is still in motion, but I can tell you that if a student requires certain services in ICT Plus, that's where they need to go, and we need to have a seat at the table for them so that they can achieve their highest potential. Out-of-district programs. We send a number of students out of district for special education services. Our costs in special education out of district services has gone up over $2 million over the last 2 years. That's a lot of money. We provide the transportation, the placements. Why don't we do it here in Wappinger Central Schools? We're moving in that direction, but it's going to take some time. It has been communicated to me numerous times that students and parents and families that live in this district want their students to go to school in this district. Why can't we make it happen? I believe if we invest in these types of classes, in the long run, it's going to save us money and it's going to keep our kids in district. We continue to increase our collaboration with local, state, and private educational institutions to support our special education students. We work with community-based organizations. We work with the county. I'm going to share with you a grant that we received from New York State, also in this area shortly. But before I get to the grant, every time I send out a correspondence, it always says, the top priority of this school district is the safety and security of our students and staff. And if we're going to say it, we better do it. As you know, all 10 of our elementary school buildings will continue to have a law enforcement officer present from their respective municipality during portions of the school day. School resource officers from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department will continue to be assigned to Wappingers Junior High School and Royce C. Ketchum High School, while officers from the East Fishkill Police Department will continue to be assigned to Van Wyck Junior High School and John Jay High School throughout the entire school day. In addition to that, we're adding school safety officers at both Royce C. Ketchum and John Jay High School. Infrastructure. I spoke about it briefly. The district, as I mentioned, plans to utilize our fund balance to address infrastructure requests from our Capital Improvement Committee, as well as our building and district administrators, not to exceed $2 million. Let's do it right the first time, and let's fix things that are 30 to 40 years old. Examples of some of the repairs: heating, septic, and other essential repairs throughout the district. Also, safety improvements for buildings, ground, and athletic fields as needed. mentioned, we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from Governor Hochul's office, and I can't thank her enough for having the faith in this district to continue our commitment to student mental health and wellness. New York State gave us $2.5 million, which was the 6th highest award in all of New York State for these types of practices and programs. Why? Over the past 2 years, we've added, as you know, 12 mental health professionals. We've made it a priority. It continues to be a priority, and now we have additional resources to expand what we already have in place. It improves the ability of staff and students to identify the mental health concerns and increase help-seeking behaviors. And that's the thing that I would like to make very, very clear. Much of what we talk about is proactive. If you're proactive and you're doing what you need to do to be proactive, that in turn generally leads you to have to be less reactive. So by having these individuals in the schools, by having the police officers in the schools, by having the mental health professionals in the schools, by having the behavioral specialists in the schools, school psychologists, they're there, they know these kids, they see if they come in. And if they're acting a little off, they'll have a conversation with them. And then they'll make the proper referral to an administrative office or to a guidance office, or they'll be provided with some assistance. So that we'll find out, hopefully, what the issue is. And before it has the ability to exacerbate, we remedy it. It's been extremely successful. As I stated, the health, welfare, safety, students, and staff remains our top priority. Grant money will be used to hire additional school psychologists and social workers. And again, the theme of this budget is maximizing resources to benefit our schools and our community. Let's talk about the tax levy and New York State aid. The Consumer Price Index, as of a week ago, was 4.12%. Since the Consumer Price Index exceeds 2%, the district will utilize 2% in the tax cap formula. It's important to recognize that when you do the tax cap calculation, that equals to a tax levy increase of a maximum of 4.33%. In my opinion, that's a little too steep. You are aware that the last 3 years, this district has come in under the tax cap. Yet we continue to have money to continue to support program and add program due to careful financial planning and very, very strategic deployment of finances. So my recommendation to the board is that we don't go to 4.33%, but we actually decrease the levy from 4.33 to 3.26, which is a decrease of 1.07%. We're currently using the New York State Governor's executive budget proposal, which includes the continuation of foundation aid formula and the universal pre-K funding. Fiscal responsibility. I've stood here before the past few years, and I said that we need to deliver on a budget that provides our students with the programs and services that they need to be successful and is fiscally responsible. I'm happy to stand here again in my estimation because I believe that's exactly what we're doing. Budgets have never pierced the tax cap in this district. And for the third consecutive year, this budget recommendation will be below the allowable tax cap, as I mentioned, by 1.07%. Let's take a look at the past. 2021, 3.64 allowable tax cap, 3.64 budget increase. 21-22, 2.49 allowable tax cap, 2.49 budget increase. 22-23, 1.38% tax cap. The tax levy came in less for the first time since the inception of the tax cap in the school district back in 2010 at 0.83%. The following year, the tax cap was 2.05. The district again came in under at 1.67. And this year, we're a little higher than I think we'd all like to be, but I don't know about you. Everything costs me more money. I think it probably does for you as well. Therefore, everything that we purchase as a school district costs us more money, which leads to that number being what it is. Let's take a look at the tax levy. Last year, the tax levy was $184 million approximately. This year, it's going to go to 190. So that's a change of $6 million from last year to this year. 3.26% change. Total budget. Last year, $287 million. This year, $305 million. But understand, that's not all going to be on the taxpayer. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. That's a budget-to-budget change of 6.45%. Grants from fund balance and state aid will be 3.2%. And as I mentioned, this budget will not be the sole responsibility of the taxpayer. Why? Because we've taken the resources that we've received, we've evaluated and analyzed all of our systems, and now we're beginning to spend some of that money in areas that we agree upon within our community are our priorities. So 24-25 budget, tax levy versus total increase, and this is important. So a 6.45 budget to budget increase means what to the taxpayer? It means that the taxpayer is only impacted by 3.26%, which I mentioned before is below the cap by 1.07%. How do we maximize our resources? This proposed budget provides program supports and opportunities for all students and staff, but as I mentioned, it's not the sole responsibility of the taxpayer. And how does that happen? The balance of funding will come from state aid, grant sources, which include that $2.5 million from the governor's office, and the utilization of $8.4 million of fund balance. That's money that we have received over the last couple of years that we have held and done our due diligence to find out and determine where that money should be spent, as opposed to saying the money's here, we got to spend it. Can't do that. So we analyzed our entire system, and we came up with $8.4 million. Now I'm going to ask you a question, Ms. Crandall. So if we use $8.4 million of fund balance this year, how much fund balance will that leave us?
Approximately $18 million.
So if we spend $8 million in fund balance this year, we'll still have $18 million in fund balance. We can't spend it all at once. We've seen what's going on in other school districts. We've seen the economic climate. My hope is that this money will help us maintain the programs and services that are so dear to us through the difficult financial times that are certainly on the way. That's my hope. And that's my plan. And if that doesn't happen, and I need to stand up here in a couple of years as a superintendent to tell you that we need to cut programs and services, I will do that. Hopefully that won't happen. But I'm not going to be paralyzed to a point where I'm not going to add what we need because I have a concern that we can't fund it 3 years down the road. What message does that send to the kids that are currently going through our schools? What does it send to our kids that are in their sophomore or junior year in our high schools? What message does that send? They deserve what we're able to provide at this time. And then we'll see what happens down the road. The areas, again, of priority: mental health and safety, special education, building infrastructure, career and technical education. So, in summary, I believe that the budget that we collectively worked on is student-centered, it's fiscally responsible, it hits in the areas of education, safety, mental health, enrichment, special education, and the contracted increases that needed to happen because our employees are what make us successful. And they have worked extremely diligently, as everyone has, especially over the past couple of years. So, the video went out on the 7th of November. Presentation was done on the 12th of February. Another video went out on the 26th. This is the superintendent recommended budget. Next week, maybe some more budget conversation. On the 8th of April, there will be the recommended budget 2, and hopefully we'll have an update on state aid, although I'm not optimistic. Last year, I think we found out in the middle of April. From what I understand, it looks that way. This year, there seems to be a lot of discussion. And I can't thank the governor as well as our state representatives here in our school district for all of their support. They have been extremely supportive of education, and it's greatly appreciated. I would hope that by the 23rd of April, we could present a budget to be approved and adopted by the Board of Education. I expect that to happen. We'll have a community forum and a budget presentation on the 6th. The 13th, community forum, that's a state-mandated public hearing on the budget. And then the budget vote is May the 21st, 2024. Next steps, continue to send those questions, comments, and concerns to budget@wcsdny.org. Presentations and reports will continue to be posted to the Board of Education website. We've got a spot for frequently asked questions. We continue to provide educational updates. Presentations will continue to occur throughout our community and some of the local town board meetings. We continue to advocate to maintain funding from New York State, and that will continue. People need to understand that Wappingers is there, and we're going to fight for the money that we believe that our communities and our students deserve. And continue working, as I stated before, to maintain a safe learning environment for our students and staff. Because if they don't have that, they are not going to reach their highest potential. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bunk.
Thanks, sir.
Are there any questions at all at this time? Eddie?
Just some observations, and Ms. Crandall and Dr. Bond can correct me if I'm wrong, just for the board. Obviously, you see $18 million and you're like, oh my God. But if you really go through this, just in terms of a quick breakdown that I went through, obviously the needs of transportation that we've talked about many, many times, and I'm sure Dr. Bonk will address that, or Ms. Crandall will in the next presentation. But with what we need to do to help transporting students, we keep talking about, we want our students to be transported by not outside vendors. So there is a $3 million increase in transportation, obviously to cover the runs and so forth. And obviously I'll let Ms. Crandall and Dr. Bonk explain that a little bit more. Also, everyone to keep in mind, we keep bringing up our conversations with what's going on with special ed. And if you go through the numbers, you see there's a significant increase based on the presentation, which is roughly about a $7 million increase just in the special ed budget itself. Well, bless you. Also keep in mind, because of all the work that we've done in terms of debt service, we do have an increase in debt service of about $3 million. So right there, under those three items, it's about $13 million of the $18 million increase. Obviously, if you go through it, naturally, the other $5 million is just going to be yearly contractual obligations that go up that we really don't have any control over, working with our collective bargaining units, as well as our vendors and outside sources. So that's really the major components of that $18 million increase. So although you see this ridiculous, number, just to kind of understand where it's coming from and what it's all about, obviously this addresses two major needs of the district: transportation and the increase in our special education services. And Mr. Zip can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're close to about 2,000 special ed students, and that seems to be increasing at the lower levels. And now that we've 450 to 500 UPK students, and obviously we're going to have we have a significant percentage of special ed needs for those kids that are coming into kindergarten. So those services, we want to keep all of them within the district, and just the community needs to realize that there is a cost for doing those things. So just that was my quick overview of everything. Obviously, we'll be breaking this down a little bit more detail and fine tuning everything as best as we can. But my understanding is that's really where that additional $18 million, why we have that increase. So hopefully I looked at all of that correctly.
You are correct, Trustee Sloshower. Well done.
Are there any other questions? John?
Dr. Bonk, you asked Assistant Superintendent Dainty about the fund balance and said that we're going to spend about $8 million of the fund balance, and the amount remaining you said was approximately
18 million total. Total fund balance.
Okay, and then what percentage is that, and how does the percentage that we'll have remaining compare to the state controller's guidelines, which I will add, if Tom DiNapoli happens to be tuned in or in the audience and I don't see him out there, it's a ridiculously low percentage when compared to municipalities, but I don't want to get going on that. But what's the percentage?
No, feel free, Vice President.
I'm trying to get my question answered. So what percentage is that?
Sure, so the district is allowed to have $4 million of the budget, incoming budget. So barring any other changes, et cetera, we'd be at about approximately 5.83%. So we would still be in excess of the 4% allowable. Again, we write a corrective action plan at the end of every audit, and we addressed, with the board's approval, those items and areas that we would be looking to utilize that fund balance in a smart fashion in order to be able to maximize the programs of the district.
So when we say fund balance, we're really talking about what some of our taxpayers, I know in my household, we talk about an emergency fund or a rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it. So we're spending down some of that, but we're still going to be above what the state controller, who's elected, what his guidance is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Bonk, you made a comment that you were not optimistic regarding the budget, and I just want to clarify what your sentiment was. I believe that you meant that to convey that you don't think the budget is going to come in a timely,
That's correct.
And in a delayed fashion, yeah. Not that you're pessimistic about the budget.
And quite frankly, no, I'm pessimistic that it's going to come in on time, but my feeling is that we're probably going to receive additional funding above this. To what degree, I don't know that. The information that I'm getting, and there's been a lot of advocacy work that I've been involved in, along with members of our Board of Education in Albany, meeting with our state elected officials and other state officials. We're concerned about the future. Fortunately, this year we seem to be okay. Unfortunately, I can't say that for many of my colleagues throughout the state who are looking at catastrophic cuts. What I would say is exactly what you stated before, that the reason that we're not in that situation is because of our reserves and our fund balance. So as I've stated before, I don't want to spend money for the sake of spending money. If the district gets cited for having too much money, yet is still able to come underneath the tax cap for the third consecutive year to continue to have the types of programs that we all love and expect and that our students deserve, I don't have a problem doing that.
So if you need to get lunch detention for being a little over that guideline, you're willing to serve it?
That's correct.
Okay.
It wouldn't be the first time, and it probably won't be the last time.
One final question just on state aid. Or actually, it's not a question, but a comment. So I would certainly hope that we get more, but that's in all our roles up here. All we can do is hope, and we don't have any direct control of that. But just speaking for myself, I would be very encouraged if we did get any additional monies, if the bottom line stayed at 305 million and we were able to get more state aid. I think that would be a win-win for all of our Wappinger Central School District community to be able to deliver the services and lower the tax levy increase even more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, Marie?
Just one, Ms. Dainty, I apologize. I didn't recognize you. Confused me.
Marie?
Yes, I'd just like to point out, when we talk about the state aid, we have to remember that Wappingers is one of the few districts in our county that didn't lose the students. Some of our sister districts in Dutchess County are getting hit tremendously with a loss in their state aid because they had such a mass exodus of students in their districts. And it is actually going to be kind of devastating for several of our districts, where it's going to, when they have a $30 million budget because they have 600 students and they're going to lose $1 million, that can become very catastrophic for some of these districts. So right now, even if we stay level where we're at on the state aid that they projected, I think we should count our blessings, because right now we're one of the few that's actually maintaining, if getting a little bit more than what we did last year.
I apologize if it seems like I'm monopolizing the conversation, but I'll proceed anyway. A majority of the Dutchess County school districts had their state aid reduced from last school year to this school year. We are in the very happy minority to have had that number go up. But that said, if there's a chance for us to get more, I think we're happy to take it on behalf of our taxpayers.
I'm glad many of you guys went to Albany to try to get some more money. So thank you to everybody who went up there, and I hope you keep going. And with that being said, the next topic is the vehicle replacement plan. Ms. Dainty.
Thank you so much. Please.
Ms. Dainty?
Yes, sir.
Would you prefer that I did the presentation?
No, I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll speak louder into the microphone. I promise.
Okay, Ms. Dainty, go right ahead.
Thank you. I'll speak up, I promise. And it is just a cold, everybody. So this evening, we will be looking to discuss the 24-25 transportation proposition. This is a vehicle replacement plan as well as a vehicle addition plan based on some of the information that we have been able to gather over the past few school years. Again, we thank everybody this evening for giving us the opportunity to have this discussion. As we've shared previously, we are the largest district-owned fleet in New York State. We have 86 vans. Those are 20 to 26 passenger vehicles. We would have 155 large vehicles that are a maximum of 72 capacity. We have 8 vans that are wheelchair accessible and 4 Suburbans. As part of this vehicle replacement plan, we have several factors that we consider from year to year. Of course, the first and foremost is the safe transportation to and from school for our students. We have to be mindful of those DOT requirements that we must adhere to, and also the staffing that we continue to encounter challenges around. And as we continue to train in our own program, which we're very proud of, several, I believe, are on the agenda this evening for approval, and we're very happy about that. That is something we put a lot of time and energy into, homegrown bus drivers, and we're very happy to have them as an addition to the district and to our WFW union. We also have fiscal diligence that we are mindful of. We're looking to keep those maintenance costs stable. As a vehicle gets older, it costs more to repair, and therefore we're mindful of that when we look at our inventory as to what vehicles are ready to retire. We continue to have shifting enrollment and evolving student needs. As we have just discussed, the needs of our students continues to increase. The number of our students who require additional supports, whether it be in the classroom or on a school vehicle, continues to rise, and we have to be mindful of that as well. We also have to have stable expenditures with regard to our budget, fiscal responsibility, and the electric bus conversation still does exist. However, at this point in time, based on the evaluation that the district continues to work on and the information that we have received, it is not gone from the table by any means, but just not something that is included in this replacement plan. What are we asking for? We are looking to retire 8 large vehicles that have average mileage of about 119,000 miles, and they are from the model year 2013. They have extensive body wear, issues and concerns, but going back to that fiscal stability as well as that safety piece, and the cost benefit analysis just isn't there for those vehicles. We are looking to add 15 additional vehicles, so we are growing our fleet. This is not something that we have done over the last several years, but due to the needs of the district, we are looking to add vehicles. They would be vans, because we need to meet the shifting enrollment as well as meet the needs of our students with special needs. What does this look like on the proposition? It is, as you can see, 8 71-passenger vehicles and 28 passenger vans would be 15 of those for a total of $2.6 million. We will continue to utilize the 5-year revolving bond anticipation note to purchase these vehicles. This provides for a pretty stable budgetary line, and it is part of the tax cap calculation when you look at the capital levy, which is an exclusion as part of that 7-step calculation.
Ms. Dainty?
Yes, sir.
If I could just interject briefly, I know that you mentioned this, but I want to make the point that if you notice, the passenger buses are diesel and the passenger vans are gasoline. They are not electric. So I just want to make that distinction. I think it's important. Where that goes, we're not sure, but we're not ready at this point to be continued. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. So based on the addition of the vehicles to the prop, looking at 23 vehicles, we're looking at about an increase in a budgetary line of $3,276, which actually doesn't hit until next school year because the bus proposition is done after this school year. But again, that's kind of where we are with regard to budgetary change for the bus prop. It's a pretty simple presentation, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dainty. Thank you, Ms. Dainty, and feel better. President Lumia?
Just a quick question, Christian. Assume we had enough bus drivers.
Yes, sir.
Will adding additional vehicles enable us to no longer use orange?
Well, the district did go out to a proposal for contracted bus transportation. Adding these vehicles will help to allow us to bring the special ed routes that have been contracted for well before I even came here back in district. That is the goal. Have the vehicles in order to be able to run the routes, have the drivers to be able to run the routes all in district. That is our goal. So we're not there yet, but we're getting pretty close. Last year it was 23, I think we were at, that we needed to get that balance. This year, by adding 15, we're not retiring any of those vans. We're actually increasing our fleet. We should be closer to that number. It all depends on what additional needs come in and how many drivers we are able to either hire or train in the coming months.
So President Lumia, if I can just interject, as I mentioned multiple times last year, it's the same mantra. We want our students to be driven to and from school by our employees. We will continue to work in that effort and make the necessary changes as quickly and as fiscally responsibly as we possibly can. It's that important.
Oh, but at this point, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, I have 2 questions. The first one is, if we are not retiring any vans this year and just increasing, is our van fleet safe enough that there are no vehicles that we have to retire?
Absolutely. We would not have any vehicles, first of all, that would pass a DOT regulation. We wouldn't be allowed to put them on the road. Secondly, it's not best case scenario. The vans are different than the large buses. The large buses don't travel as far and they have a longer life from their model year, where the vans are mostly out of district or running around inside the district for out of feeder type situations. They have a shorter lifespan model year, and that's how they gain their mileage. So we feel that we are going to be okay. Director Broas works with the transportation garage to make sure. And then next year we will reevaluate. That's the beauty of being able to have this conversation annually, and we will go from there.
And my other question is, if the bus proposition were not to pass, we would most likely then have to continue contracting some of these out-of-district routes to contractors. And from going through the budget line item by line item with another trustee today, it looks as though it would cost us substantially more in the budget to contract out those routes than to purchase the new vehicles and try to keep them in district.
Correct. So just to be clear, there still will be contracted routes in the 24-25 budget. However, you are correct. If we don't have the vehicles and
The only way that we would be able to avoid that would be to purchase somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 35 to 50 buses. I don't think that's prudent to do at this point. I would like to eventually get to where we need to get. I don't want to put ourselves in a bind. I think with the driver training programs that we have in-house, some of the adjustments that have been made in salaries that were much needed for our bus drivers, I think is going to help. And we will continue to tweak the system to make sure that the bus routes are as effective and efficient as possible. I don't want to go out there and buy 40 or 45 buses and then have them and not be able to operate them because we didn't have enough time to plan and make it effective and efficient.
Yes, I understand.
That's my,
and I understand that and see
Yeah.
where you're going. But when I hear people out in the community who say, oh, well, the bus proposition is higher this year because we're buying more buses, I don't want to spend that money. I want to make sure that they are informed voters and know that it's going to be more of an impact for transportation on the budget if we don't pass the bus proposition, which means that those funds that will be needed for the additional contracted routes will come out of other programs that benefit our students.
you are absolutely correct. And what that also will mean is that if we don't replace the 8 buses and add the 15 vans, we're going to have to subcontract another 23 routes out that we wouldn't have to in the event the proposition passed, which would cost more money. And again, it would be defeating the goal of bringing the transportation in-house. So you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, 5.04, approval of transportation proposition.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappingers Central School District authorizes the submission of the following proposition for the qualified voters of the district to vote on at the annual district meeting, budget vote, and election to be held on May 21st, 2024. Shall the Board of Education of the Wappingers Central School District, Putnam and Dutchess Counties, New York District, be authorized to purchase student transportation vehicles, including incidental expenses incurred therewith, at a maximum estimated sum of $2,668,863, and said amount or so much thereof as shall be necessary shall be raised by the levy of a tax upon the taxable property of the district and collected in annual installments as approved by law, and in anticipation of such tax obligations of the district shall be issued.
Motion Marie, second Mike. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, Dr.
If I may just say, I would personally like to thank each member of this Board of Education for their support of this budget and what we're continuing to build here in the Wappingers Central School District and our commitment to each and every one of our students. It's greatly appreciated by myself and members of the senior team. Thank you again.
Consent agenda. Does anybody want to remove anything from consent agenda? Marie?
6.03, item 17, line G.
Okay.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 6.02, 6.03, except 17G.
Line G.
6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, 6.08, 6.09, 6.10, 6.11, 6.12, 6.13, 6.14, 6.15, and 6.16.
Motion. Peggy, second. Marie? All in favor? Unanimous. 6.03, number 17, line G.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve consent agenda item 6.03, 17, line G, as stated.
Motion. Peggy, second. Okay, Mike. All in favor? All opposed? You got it? Got it? Okay, thank you. I don't know. Thank you. 7.01, approval of a new club charter, Chief Road.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new club charter for the Kelsey's Garden Club at Sheaf Road Elementary School as submitted.
A motion, Maria, second. Mike, all discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. 7.02, approval of new club charter, RCK.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new club charter for the Connections Club at Royce C. Ketchum High School as submitted.
Motion, Mike, second. Peggy, all those in favor? Unanimous. Approval of transfer agreement, Van White Junior High School logo.
Whereas the Board of Education has reviewed the proposed transfer agreement for a logo design for Van White Junior High School and finds its terms acceptable to the school district, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the transfer agreement authorizing the transfer of all intellectual property rights of the Van Wyck Junior High School logo to the Wappingers Central School District, and further authorizes the board president to execute the attached transfer agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new Van Wyck Junior High School logos and does hereby waive the first reading and adopts the revision to Exhibit 5260E.1 official marks effective March 12th, 2024, as requested by Principal Wilson Castro. Wilson Castro.
Motion, Mike, second. Peggy, all those in favor? Unanimous. 7.04, approval of Legislative Action Committee charter.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the 2023-2024 Legislative Action Committee charter and goals as stated.
Motion, Marie, second. Peggy, those in favor? Unanimous. 7.05, third reading of adoption policy.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappinger Central School District hereby approves the third reading of and adopts the following policies based upon the first and second readings by the board and the recommendation of the policy committee as amended.
Motion, Peggy, second. Eddie, all those in favor? Unanimous. 7.06, second reading and adoption policies.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the Wappingers Central School District hereby approves the second reading of and adopts the following policies based upon the first reading by the board and the recommendation of the policy committee as stated.
Motion, Peggy, second, Marie, all in favor? I'd like to thank Peggy Keller and the committee members for doing extremely good work on these policies. So I really thank you for what you do. 7.07, first reading of policies. Once again, please read these policies, and if you have any questions, please address them to Chairman Peggy Keller. 8.01, board members may request additional agenda items. Any addition to the agenda? Seeing none, are there any?
None.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby adjourn the March 11th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. The time is 9:14 p.m.
Motion Marie, second, John Michael. All those in favor? John Mike. All opposed?
John.
All opposed?
John Mike. John Mike.
Oh, Jesus Christ.